If all movies ran for as long as the plot spans inside their respective universes, which one would be the most tedious to sit down and watch all the way through? Groundhog Day. I remember the first time I saw it was annoying enough to think he was in there for a year, and then I read how much time the director estimated he was in there and turned that movie into a freaking horror movie for me. Ramis said it was 10 years. That guy was a genius and he is sorely missed. Someone calculated all the time it would take to learn everything. If 10,000 hours makes you a pro, and he learned piano, this, that, and literally every single person's life. It was more than 10 years. The 10,000 hour rule is how many hours elite students spent practicing violin by the age of 20. I don't remember the name of the school, but it was very prestigious. Malcolm Gladwell took completely the wrong point from Eric Anders' work on studying practice and learning. His point in the study was that more practice lead to better results. Keep in mind this was a self-reported study that asked students to remember how many hours they had spent practicing over their lifetime. It turned out that the students entering the elite program had practiced on average roughly 10,000 hours. It is almost certainly not necessary to spend that much time to learn or even master most skills. But it's not more practice, it has to be the right kind of practice. The 10,000 hours thing is a pop psychology concept made to sell books for Malcolm Gladwell, not something established in fact or years of serious testing. I have 5K plus hours in CS and I still suck at it. I want a refund. That's just because you haven't hit the magic 10,000 mark yet. You'll be garbage at it for the first 9,999 hours, but once that counter rolls over you instantly become an ultra mega genius in the field. There are different estimates, and I think the writers went back and forth on that a bit. Like at first it may have been decades worth of time, but then they dialed that back because it seemed too grim. In a similar vein, Palm Springs came out on Hulu last year and Andy Samberg's character is in the time loop long enough to have no memory of what his job was before the time loop. That scene made it sound like torture to me. Well, the movie was pretty clear that it was torture, which is why he had experimented with all the different ways to kill himself. The story just picks up long after even the horror has worn thin for him. The worst part is that the isolation of where he was pretty much takes a lot of options away. In a big city, there are a lot more options as to what you can spend your replayed days over and over again doing. In an isolated place like that, he is 2 to 3 hours from being anywhere else. It was originally more like 10,000 years. That'll put a crick in your neck. Phenomenal cosmic power, itty bitty living space. Good lord. And that's why they cast Bill Murray. Because he's already insane, it wouldn't affect him. Apparently, they actually filmed the scenes in reverse for a similar reason, lol. Web link. Oh, man. In the books, that altered carbon was based on the main character is torturing someone after he kills him. Oh yeah, in the show everyone has this thing called a stack that backs up their minds. If they die and the stack is recovered, they can be put in a new body. He's got the guy's mind loaded up in VR and is threatening to torture him. Guy is playing tough. He can be made to feel unimaginable pain, but he thinks he can stand that. They're in a generic setting, a house in a wheat field under an unchanging cloudless sky. The main character threatens to leave this guy's mind running in this world with no company, no stimulus, and no way to kill himself, all in a computer attached to a battery that would last 30 real-world years. The kicker, they're in a VR space where time is going by very quickly compared to the outside world. So the victim is being threatened with tens of thousands of years of boredom. Black Mirror Episode 2 kind of. I think the winter one. It may have had Black or Christmas in its name. Edit. Just remembered all the episodes with white in it were top tier. White Christmas. White Bear. Okay, just 2, but White Christmas had like 3 stories. Yup. Such a good effing episode. John Hamm was insane in it. White Christmas, they left a guy in a room with the same song playing for about 2 million years. 1,000 years a minute. Leave at 5, take 24 hours for Christmas off, and get back at 8. 39 hours. Gives me genuine nightmares, especially when he broke the radio and it got louder. That also makes it hilarious that it took him 10,000 years to learn to not be a dick, which was the whole point of the movie. LOL. He would just be a drooling fool by the end of the beginning of that. Yeah, zero chance he has any shred of sanity left after living the same day more than 3.5 million times. Even if his mind somehow adapted to it, how the F would he handle the first true tomorrow afterwards? Imagine the incredible levels of PTSD you'd have, forever. That's the thing that gets me. Having lived subjective years, or decades, or centuries, in a totally familiar environment where everyone reacts exactly as he remembers, in a body which never gets old, gets sick, or had any consequences to injury or even overeating, suddenly he is back in the realm of uncertainty, illness, aging and death. That is going to be some adjustment to make. Edit, a word. I mean, he's died so many times. 10,000 years. Have to imagine he's not worried about illness/death. Or, realistically speaking, the very first thing he'd do when he was finally free might just be to kill himself. The director estimates he was in there for about 30 to 40 years. Edit, here's the quote from the director: "It takes at least 10 years to get good at anything, and, allotting, sick, for the downtime and misguided years he spent, it had to be more like 30 or 40 years. He memorized so many things that happened and things about people. I remember he learned ice sculpting, piano, and spent a few days trying to kill himself. He also learned about that female reporter, I forget her name. My guess is 10 years. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Begins while our ancestors are still primates and ends near the early 2000s. Along those lines, Prometheus. The engineers who provided the DNA for life, until we would have the capability to travel to another star system. Would be billions of years? Yay, and similarly the Fountain. Spanning from the Spanish Inquisition to a time when we're interstellar travelers. Actually a lot of vampire movies too. Why there are never Cullen astronauts? These vamps will make perfect astronauts with their low maintenance and durability. Damn. Vampires in space? I'd read/watch the crap out of a story like that. Can we all spam Christopher Paolini with that idea? Edit, wow, thanks for all the suggestions. Seems like I might have found a fountain of new reading, and watching, materials. You are awesome. There are already vampires in space. We can't see them because large telescopes work thanks to mirrors. So that's what dark matter is. Vamps didn't used to show up in mirrors because they were made with silver. No, they aren't made with silver anymore. So they would show up. I'm sure they were involved in the decision to change how mirrors are made. As for the garlic thing, I'm pretty sure they actually over the taste of garlic and just perpetuated that myth so their meals would be pre-seasoned for them. Blind Sight, by Peter Watts? I think I'd prefer the Neil Gaiman version, to Paolini's. Because the moment you're out of a planet/moon's shadow side you're in constant daylight? So they sparkle, hence, free light. Interstellar. Good response. Doctor Strange would be interesting. Dormammu. I've come to bargain. Thank you for reminding me of one of the funniest things my son has ever done. He was 3 or 4 and wanted an extra granola bar. He walked up to me in front of the shelf they were on, put his hands on his hips, and announced, "Mama, I've come to bargain." I lost it laughing, gave him the granola bar and told him that trick only works once. Dormammu. I read this in Johnny Bravo's voice for some reason. I guess it depends on whose experience of time. We see almost the entire thing from McConaughey's perspective, which is maybe a few months overall. Wasn't it at least 2 years to Saturn? Yes, but they sleep. It hurts my head to even begin to think about this. Well done. Jurassic Park? Mosquito gets stuck in amber, then we watch it slowly get fossilized, then millions and millions of years later it gets dug up and harvested into dino DNA. I like this answer. So many are just long periods of time, but this one has millions of years where nothing related to the primary story arc is happening except the slow process of preserving the mosquito, which would be extremely tedious to watch. Though I suppose the extinction of dinosaurs is important to the plot, so we probably get to watch that part way through. No, we wouldn't even have the fun of seeing the dinosaurs go extinct, because the whole beginning plot would be about that mosquito, therefore we would have to follow it exclusively based on ops post. From biting to getting fossilized to millions of years underground, and then finally being dug up in that cave, just millions of years of watching a mosquito do absolutely nothing, ever. Maybe not. Depending on when the mosquito got stuck in the amber. A common source of amber is the sap from pine trees. So the mosquito probably got stuck on the side of a tree. The tree dies at some point, and the mosquito is incredibly slowly buried as hills and mountains form over it, and then cracks form and a cave opens up. So there is a small chance it was still above ground when the meteor hit. We might get to see it in the background. OMG, even describing it feels tedious. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They wait 7.5 million years for deep thought to answer the ultimate question. Rookie answers in here. Not even that. There's a restaurant at the end of the universe. 106 years at the very least. Marvin, the robot, due to extensive time travel, claims to be 37 times older than the universe itself. If there's one complaint about serious cybernetics products, it certainly isn't longevity. They still bake in planned obsolescence. Marvin will only last 10,500 years before his battery will no longer hold a charge. Diodes. The reason why he embraced his creator, and gave him an electric shock. No wonder he's so effing depressed. The first 10 million years, they were the worst. The second 10 million years, they were the worst too. The third 10 million years, I didn't enjoy at all. After that, I went into a bit of a decline. Yeah man. I'd be pissed too if my crew always jumped somewhere in space-time and then forgot me there to wait until they randomly drop in at the same spot many millions of years later. In the beginning, the universe was created, and that made a lot of people very angry. If you figure that line in, technically it would go from the beginning of time to the end. Yeah, I think I'll take a hard pass on that one. Also, at some point, it says when someone discovers the reason the universe exists, it gets replaced for something weirder. Then it says this already happened. So it's like 2 eternities. Even assuming that hasn't happened, Marvin the paranoid android outlives the universe due to time travel after they forget about him at one point, and he just has to wait a very, very, very long time until they return. After all that, seeing God's last message to the universe is everything for me. We apologize for the inconvenience. That got me thinking about The Good Place, which is a TV series, not a movie, so doesn't count. The afterlife transcends time, as we know it. I can't remember, but the last episode spans like millions of Jeremy Bearamys. Side note, rewatching that show and knowing everything about it makes it way funnier for me. Oh my god, I helped fix the sinkhole. Nope, absolutely not. Walks off. Me, laughing out loud. That was hell for her. First time, you experience it like Eleanor. Second time like Janet. Well, some of us experienced it more like Jason the first time. Some of us experience everything like Jason. Bortles. The dot over the I in Jeremy Bearimy is an isolated point on the timeline which contains Tuesdays, July, and occasionally, the time moment where nothing never occurs. Cut to Cheaty meltdown. 7.5 million years. How about Jurassic Park? That mosquito hung out in the ground for like 150 million years. Do we have to just sit and watch that mosquito? That definitely hits the tedious part of the prompt. Forget about the 7.5 million years for deep thought to provide the answer, or following things from the Big Bang Burger Bar to the restaurant at the end of the universe. Imagine following the adventures of Wowbagger the Infinitely Prolonged, whose mission is to travel the entire universe, and insult every single living being, in alphabetical order. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We start out with seeing the creation of the One Ring, and end with Frodo and Sam heading off on their own. That's SA 1600 to TA 3019. So, 4,890 years? If there's some other Tolkien fan who can give a more accurate timeline, feel free. 3,000 years of Arwen waiting for her soulmate to be born. 3,000 years of Arwen waiting for her soulmate cousin to be born. First cousin about 40 times removed. I think they're okay. I'm pretty sure it's 67 times removed. But yeah, they're okay. First cousin 62 or 67 times removed depending on which lineage you follow. Web link. We see the flash forward of Arwen at Aragorn's funeral, and he dies in FA 120, so you can add a few more years onto that. Can you imagine sitting through all that marital strife? Yes, but only because of my ex-wife. Even if we only started where LOTR started in the first movie, just the time between Gandalf running off to research the ring while Frodo waits is 17 years. The movie makes it seem like he took a day trip to the Eriador Public Library, Gandalf only section. But number 17 years, reading crap everywhere. Some butthole must have screwed up the catalog cards. TSK. For real though. I love the movies, but there is minimal, if any, effort to give viewers a decent timeline. I didn't read LOTR until after Fellowship came out, and I was in for a lot of surprises. I do like Bombadil, but I think I would have hated Jackson for trying to cram it in any of the movies. Do you think the movies would have been better if the director had given an indication of time span? Frodo's degradation would have made a lot more sense. He would even seem braver for it. Even just having the Fellowship members talk about the time they're spending, how much time passed between events, is it going to be spring/winter/whatever when they get to a place, why going east through Rivendell and dealing with diplomacy and possible internment is better than going south and through Isengard in an unexpected journey. Every time they go anywhere, it feels like it takes 3 days at most. By the end of even one movie, you can't tell if it's been 3 weeks for 3 years. Like, you know the thing some adventure movies do where they show a map and a little ship or something traveling along the route? Like even that would have helped. It takes seconds to convey the span of time and the implied stress. Do we get that in the LOTR movies? I don't know, maybe once vaguely. I should be able to remember. Web link. Like, you know the thing some adventure movies do where they show a map and a little ship or something traveling along the route? Like Indiana Jones? They did have one deleted scene you can watch in the extended edition of The Two Towers where Frodo and Sam are captured by Faramir, and Faramir takes some time to lay out a map of Middle-earth and point to places saying like Sauron is in Mordor, Saruman is in Isengard, etc. And Peter Jackson talked about how the scene was made primarily to explain to audiences just where things were, but it got cut. That film also had a deleted scene where Aragorn reveals, to Eowyn's surprise, that he's 87 years old. They did keep the scene in Return of the King where Treebeard calls Gandalf young Master Gandalf because, like, Gandalf is about 2,000 years old, but Treebeard is closer to 20,000 years old. The appendices at the end of the Return of the King book in particular is like a wiki slapped onto the end of the book. It has a concise timeline of when events took place. The whole timeline from when they decided to destroy the One Ring to when they actually destroyed it took about a year if I remember correctly, when people were born, long histories of characters that are mentioned only in passing in the main LOTR storyline, etc. I was brought up on the books in my childhood before I watched all of them in theaters in my tweens, so a lot of that timeline and location stuff was clear as a bell to me, but I can totally understand how people could get lost without on a lot of details without reading the books. And the films are already so long, you don't want to pad them out with little nuggets of information about timelines that only a few people will care about, and I hope we can all agree that the Hobbit movies prove there really is such a thing as too much padding out. I've said this before, but if they added every single little thing from the books, Lot RS would be like 3 weeks long, and a musical. Seriously, they sing every other page. Like in the books, the Entmut lasts for 3 days, which is considered a quick chat for Ents, whereas in the film it seems to take place over a single night. Yeah, but there is quite a lot of story in between, so it wouldn't be that bad. Unless we just get to watch the One Ring sitting at the bottom of that pond before Deagle picks it up. Encino Man. Edit, California Man for those outside the US. Was Encino Man here in Australia? We need a sequel where Pauly Shore is unthawed from the 90s and hasn't changed a bit. Not the correct answer, but the best one. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.